Howdy, folks. It is Alex back again. It's day 2, January 10th of your EDUC 403 research class. Today is a pretty exciting day. There is an overview video that you're going to be watching, which will be very exciting. It'll be linked right here. And so we're looking forward to that being a part of what you're doing today. I am also very excited about the content for today. The content for today is moving you forward through the ideas about what educational research is by first tackling what variables and hypotheses are. These are very important terms. Variables are things that vary. You'll get more information about it as you move through the learning modules, but variables literally vary. So the temperature on a day-to-day basis is something that varies. The number of fingers I have on my 2 hands never varies. It's a constant, right? So number of fingers that Alex has is a constant. Temperature on a day-to-day basis is a variable. You can see that there are different ways of talking about what we're doing and what we're looking at. We're usually interested in variables. Constants we tend to know, variables we tend to want to know more about. Hypotheses, on the other hand, are things that we generally think about and want to, they're statements that explain what we think is happening. Let's put it that way. So I might make a hypothesis statement that says something like, the more clothes I wear, the warmer I will feel. That is a hypothesis, and then I can test that. You know how? By using the number of layers that I wear as my variable, and then the reported temperature. Do I feel a little hot, very hot, super hot, enormously hot, something like that on a scale? Alex's hot feeling, I don't know if that's a word, that would then be my other variable that I would use in that hypothesis. You'll learn more about it there, but that's just a sort of a fun example. You will learn how to review the research literature. And the main thing I want to point out here as you go through this is that you're not creating a book report for us. You're not creating a Wiseman in 2009 says this, and then Smith in 2001 says this, and then Anderson in 2015 says this. You're actually going to synthesize it together, and you're going to say, let's say you're reading the research literature, you're exploring what's happening in that research literature. You're going to give us some sort of a synthesis of that by saying, you know what, I read a whole bunch of stuff and it has these 5 main points. And then for each of those 5 main points, you're going to cite the different research that you looked at. You'll see what I mean as we go through the learning modules, but we'll be definitely working on that together. And then the basic elements of research proposal writing, which are pretty straightforward. I've got an outline for you that I'm going to ask you to use when you're putting things together. And you'll see that every day you're adding something new to that. So you might want to go ahead and start working on each of those days, work as far in advance as you can, and we'll move forward that way. For today's learning module, you're going to have right off the bat how to develop and ask a research question for either qualitative or quantitative studies from Vest Guy again. And that'll be a video. It is about a 5-minute video. I encourage you to look at that. You'll have another video, about a 9-minute video on what is qualitative versus quantitative data. I think it's a kind of an entertaining video, so hopefully you find it that way too, while also getting across the basics of both of these kinds of research. You're going to be reading a chapter on variables and hypotheses from the Frankel and Wallen book. It's linked here, and doing one of our online quizzes for that. Remember to do those every day. It's really important. Do them as many times as you want until you get 100%. You're also going to look at the Frankel and Wallen chapter on reviewing the literature and then taking the quiz on that. So make sure that you've got that as part of your agenda. Then you'll be looking at the basics of research proposal writing. There is a chapter from Frankel and Wallen, chapter 25, which you will obviously do a quiz on. I also have some online articles on problem statements, which will open up here. You'll see that. You read it online. Statements of research purpose. You'll see that. It'll give you some background there. Work through that. Winning strategies and ethical considerations. Remember, one of the main things we want to remember about being ethical researchers and this is chapter 25. Oh, this is from Cresswell, even better, about being ethical researchers, is that, I'm surprised I didn't have Cresswell here, is that we want to make sure that we're always protecting our participants. That's the main thing that we want to remember, because we're in education almost always dealing with people of some sort, and we want to make sure that the people who participate in our research are informed, that they are safe, that they are anonymous when at all possible, and that we work through some sort of an institutional review board process before we actually start any of the research. Those are all things that you will learn more about as you're reading through these chapters and looking at the videos. You will do a couple of things then for your application activities that you should complete and send to me via email, preferably in one document with headings distinguishing each section. Please try to do one document with headings identifying or distinguishing each section. That would make it easier on both of us, because you just send one email, I just read one document. In your one document, you will have a draft statement of the problem section that will include the statement and some explanation of it given your research question idea, which could be used to orient a reader of a research proposal on your topic. In other words, tell me, what's the problem? What's the topic? What's the issue? And just because it says problem, by the way, doesn't mean that it's really, you know, nothing to cry about. It's not a problem like that, although it could be. It just means it's the thing you're trying to figure out, right? That's what the problem means. Think of it like a math problem. It's not like the world that's coming to an end as much as it is, we don't know the answer, and so we're trying to find the answer. Considering your newly developed research question, draft a purpose of the study section for your draft research proposal. Remember, the purpose is telling us what's the point, why do we care? That's important to understand. And then draft a section on anticipated ethical issues in the study. So, are there any ways that your participants could be compromised, or that information might be sensitive, or that you might have difficulties getting people to participate because of the sensitive nature of the topic? For example, if I'm doing something on, you know, sexual preferences among, you know, middle school youth, that's a very touchy subject in a lot of different cultures and communities, and you're going to have to be really careful to make sure that the people that you're involving in your study are aware of what they're doing, that they're protected in any way possible from any sort of harm or backlash, that they're anonymous as much as possible. All sorts of things are going to come into consideration there. So you want to consider some of your own anticipated ethical issues in your study, whatever it is. And you're going to send me one document with all three of these in there as an email attachment by the end of the day, and I will give you feedback within 24 hours. You obviously are continuously encouraged to look ahead at the following day's activities, and especially to prepare for the next day as soon as possible. So continue to watch those developing your research idea proposal videos. Those are important to start now, so please do. Those are on the January 12th webpage. And then I'd like for you to identify and commit to one empirical research question to base your research proposal assignments around, and share your draft research question in the comments section below. That's for today, okay? So the comments section below is right here. And this is where you say, hi everyone, my draft research question is, insert question here, whatever that is. Oh, this probably should end with the question mark. And then I'm going to post the comment, and then you will insert your own draft research question at the bottom of the page, just like I did. And you will also respond and provide feedback to somebody else. So in addition to emailing me, those three things that you need to email me today, those are, just a reminder here, your draft statement of the problem, your draft purpose of the study, and your draft anticipated ethical issues in the study. And you will also, today, watch one of these videos as soon as you can, and you will draft your research question. You'll write it in the comments section below, down here, and you'll also reply to somebody. So I'm going to reply, just leave a reply, not that hard. I'm going to say, this is an interesting question. I think that you should consider changing, and then insert comments here. If you think you should consider changing. Maybe you think it's perfect, and then tell the person why it's a perfect question. All you have to do is make sure that you're providing honest, respectful, good critical feedback. Remember, you want to be critical with each other so that I'm not critical with you when I'm looking at it. You want to give each other as much help as you can. All right. So anytime you want to leave a reply to somebody else, you just hit reply below their comment. Anytime you want to start a new thread, you do the leave a reply down here below the big, bold leave a reply. All right. That is day 2, my friends. It is an exciting day. I am looking forward to hearing all of your questions and purposes and ethical considerations, all that stuff. So email that to me and let me know if you have any questions.